Good morning and welcome to Church at Home with Rachael for Friday the 3rd of September. It's Labor Day weekend coming up and there's so much happening. Kids are back in school. Teachers are having to do that. Our numbers are rising steeply in Alberta. It's kind of terrifying. And it seems to be our new normal for school year, isn't it? Today, I'd like to talk to you about mountains. I was reading recently in one of my devotionals about how many times God calls people to go up a mountain to speak to Him, to feel His presence, to really communicate. And I thought, okay, well, it's a great, literary device, the trek up the mountain. But think about Moses went up the mountain, Elijah went up the mountain. Jesus went up the mountain for the transfiguration, but he also went up Mount of Olives to pray. And I got thinking about that maybe there's more to that than simply, the going up mountains is a thing. What are mountains about? Last month or 2 months, oh, heavens, it's almost 2 months ago, Rob and I went to Banff and we went up to Sulphur Mountain and we took the gondola up. Now I'm terrified of heights, so that was a thing in itself, is the fact that I would go up on the mountain. I'm not so much terrified of being on the mountain and being up it to the top. That doesn't bother me. It's the hanging in the air thing. I don't like bridges either. So heights and bridges, or heights and being with my feet off the ground. The gondola was kind of a terrifying but really energizing experience. I really enjoyed it. I really had a great time. And the view was spectacular. The trip just takes a couple of minutes and it is breathtaking. Being on that mountain was absolutely incredible. Seeing other mountaintops and seeing, we were there on a day when the smoke, the haze from the forest fires was pretty bad. And when we first got there, it was really difficult to see anything. And when I recorded part of my Church at Home there for my first day back from holidays, you really couldn't see the peak of the mountain across from us in the background. It was kind of there, it looked like kind of like a shadow. We weren't in the clouds, we were in the haze. As the day went by, though, the haze lifted and it really became beautiful before we came back down the mountain. And so we had this beautiful scene of blue sky and white clouds and mountain peaks and just the glory of Banff. It was just incredible. But when we were on the gondola, both going up and going down, we could see people down below us walking the trail. And one couple that we met, well, we didn't meet them, but we saw them up top the mountain, had their dog. It looked like maybe a golden retriever. And, a golden retriever, I think. Anyway, it was just beautiful. But it was incredible to see them because they had their walking sticks. They were obviously practiced in walking up mountains and on trails and things like that. They had their water bottles. They were well prepared. There were other people we saw who were walking with flip-flops and sandals and not so well prepared. But these folks had their backpacks and they had their water bottles, hats, sunglasses, proper shoes and hiking boots, and their, walking sticks, the works. They were prepared for their hike up the mountain, enjoyed being at the top, and then when we were going back down on the gondola, they were descending the mountain on foot as well. And thinking about all these mountaintop experiences, we talk about these mountaintop experiences as something, as a shift in our lives, as a moment when we recognize something different. And really, the Bible gives us ample opportunity to look at those things. Moses goes up the mountain to speak with God, to come down with the Ten Commandments. Elijah goes up the mountain and is able to stand there and listen. And God is not in the earthquake or in the wind, but God is in the gentle whisper of the wind. Jesus going up the mountain with Peter and the other a couple of other disciples for the transfiguration. The number of times Jesus went to the Mount of Olives and prayed. We need to embrace the mountaintop experience. We need to acknowledge in our own lives that we need those mountaintop experiences. But we need to not cheat like I did with the gondola. There might be times in our lives when we recognize that we're that we're up a mountain and we're having this incredible mountaintop experience. And when I say incredible, that does not mean that it's easy or necessarily breathtaking and beautiful. Sometimes a mountaintop experience can be painful. It can be eye-opening and soul-changing, because sometimes we need the trimming, the pruning of ourselves to happen. Sometimes the dead parts of ourselves, it's like deadheading flowers. Sometimes we do need to be pretty brutal and have someone or God be pretty brutal with us to snip away the parts of us that are draining energy from us and keeping it from being directed to where it needs to be. So those mountaintop experiences don't have to be beautiful, incredible, amazing moments. They can be terrifying. They can be overwhelming. They can be painful. But given time, when we look back, we are able to recognize how important they were in our lives. But I think as much as sometimes it would be great if God just sort of popped us on the mountain, like took us up on a gondola, and then brought us back down on a gondola, I think we're missing the point. I loved being at the top of Sulphur Mountain. It was beautiful. But I can only imagine how I would feel if Rob and I had walked up the mountain, had taken the time, done the training it would need to be able to survive that walk, but taken the time to walk up the mountain, to take every step, to see, just to be present with the environment changing, the different trees, the different bushes, the different, the air quality, the how much air there is, all of those things as we walked up, and also what would happen to us as we walked up, the conversations we would have and the silences we would experience, the need to be present to the moment, putting one foot in front of the other and watching what's around you. It's because there's animals, there's bears and cougars and all kinds of animals up there that you need to be aware of. Because sometimes, maybe, like taking the gondola up, it's really easy to keep your focus on what's way ahead of you, the top of the mountain. But quite often, those real lessons we need to learn so that we can understand the mountaintop experience are learned as we travel and work and struggle our way up the mountain. It's in the step-by-step work we do in getting up that mountain that we are more able to then appreciate and comprehend what God is saying to us when we come face to face with God on top of that mountain. And then the gondola was great, but the trip down the mountain was so fast it was over almost before it began, it seemed. But think about what it would mean to be able to learn something, to come face to face with God on that mountaintop, and then know that you still have all that time to process and to think and to wonder and to figure out what exactly was that all about. How does this impact my life? Where do I go now? As you travel down the mountain, you have time coming down from that mountaintop to prepare your heart, your mind, your body, and soul, so that when you are faced with people and circumstances and work and all of the everyday things of life, you're more able then to remember and hold on to those lessons learned on the mountaintop, on the mountain itself. We need the trip up the mountain. We need that struggle. We also need the time to process coming down the mountain, because what happens at the top of the mountain is life-changing and can't be experienced in the blink of an eye. We need the time to understand what God is doing in our lives and allow it to take root before we face up with everything else that might dilute it or make us focus on something else. So as you prepare for your mountain trekking experiences, even if you have the chance to take the gondola, make the effort and climb the mountain. It'll be worth it. Have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Be safe. Be good. God bless you, and I will see you Monday, Labor Day, for Church at Home with Rachael.